go ahead and begin to find a comfortable seated position. I'm going to sit on a bolster myself. You can sit on a pillow, you can lay down, you can even take a child's pose. Just begin to get comfortable. You can cross at the ankles or the shins. You can let the knees come down to the floor. And then when you're ready, let your eyes close. If you're laying down, maybe place a hand over the belly, hand over the heart. Begin to get comfortable. Everyone, let the eyes close. And if you're not working with music, that's okay. Begin to listen to the sound of your breath instead. Instead of relying on music to be calming for you, to be a guide for you, let the sound of your breath help. Imagining the breath to be like ocean waves, rolling in, rolling out. Breathing in, breathing out. Perhaps the mind feels busy. With the eyes closed, acknowledge that busyness. Acknowledge any craziness. And without trying to get it to leave, just let it be there. It's okay for the mind to be busy. These are weird times that we're in. You can acknowledge that. Perhaps even labeling your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions as they arise. Inhaling, mind busy. Exhaling, mind busy. Inhaling, breath difficult. Exhaling, breath difficult. And as you acknowledge these things, noticing how the tension, the stress of them begin to melt away. You begin to feel a sense of ease. Doing a Gatha meditation, so we're using a phrase, the same phrase on the inhale and the exhale. What that does is it helps us with our Samavriti, our same breath. So the inhale and the exhale begin to match. Inhale, feeling calmer. Exhale, feeling calmer. Eyes are still closed. If you prefer to keep them open, that's okay. Just unfocus the vision. Let the eyes blur a bit. Letting your awareness be to sound, to sensation in the body. Not visual, not colors and lights. Not even the scene that you see of me in the video. Just listen to my voice. Breathing in and breathing out. And begin to soften the face and soften the body. I am safe, breathing in. I am safe, breathing out. I am well. I am well. Using the pause at the bottom of the breath to think of your next phrase, your next affirmation for this Gatha meditation. What is soothing to you? What is grounding? Our first chakra is all about survival. It's about feeling secure, about feeling able. So perhaps empowering thoughts. using the breath. Ocean waves rolling in and rolling out with these calming affirmations. Letting the eyes close, the body relax. Noticing if there's any way that your body could be more comfortable. Reminding yourself that when the body's comfortable, the mind can find ease just a little bit better. If you are seated, allow there to be some movement from side to side, maybe through the rib cage, maybe rolling through the shoulders. If you're laying down, I'd like you to take up more space. Maybe stretch your arms and legs wider like a starfish. Reach the arms overhead, get a full body stretch. Evaluating what kind of energy level you have, what kind of emotions or feelings are present. Maybe even any critical judgments to yourself or others. It's a difficult time that we're in. It's okay to acknowledge that, but then let it go. Just a cloud floating by in the sky. Continue now rolling through the ankles and the wrists. If you're seated, maybe reaching up, moving through the torso, moving through the wrists. We're going to find our first yin pose of the class, and we're going to do it gently. We're going to find our child's pose, a very grounding pose. I'm going to give you options. If you do have a rolled up blanket or a pillow that's firm, a supported child's pose would be really great here. For that, what you're going to do is bring the toes towards each other. You can bring the knees apart, just enough to bring the end of the bolster to them. If you prefer to keep your knees close together in your child's pose, that's okay. You can bring the bolster forward and then just rest the head like a pillow. But if you're looking for more support through the abdomen, bring the bolster in between the legs and then really rest the belly down. That might mean the hips lift. That's okay. Your head will probably turn in one direction or the other. Allow that to happen. Begin to find your child's pose. Knees can be wide or knees can be together. And then use the breath to settle in once you get there. Noticing if the body needs to adjust or shift in any way. Let that happen. You're never stuck where you land. Allow this to be a comforting and grounding pose for you. And then begin to ride the waves of your breath. Sensation through the nose as the air comes in. Sensation through the mouth, the throat, as the air goes out. And since you're alone at home, you can even allow this to be a very noisy breath. You can sigh the breath out. You don't have to feel self-conscious. You're in a safe space. We all are. So breathing in, breathing out. Let the exhale now be longer than the inhale, calming for the nervous system. And perhaps you even add a pause at the bottom of the exhale, adding Gata meditation into this posture. Breathing in, I am rooted. Breathing out, I am rooted. And allowing this to be an exercise of the mind. How many different affirmations can you think of for yourself in the shape? That you feel physically, that you feel emotionally. Allow yourself to enjoy the posture, but also these kind words that you're telling yourself, like you're your own best friend. A proverb that I wanted to read, a Maori proverb, says, "In order to flourish above, one must be firmly rooted below." So in this pose, can you feel roots growing from the shins, from the tops of the feet down to the floor, from the belly or the face down through the bolster, growing deeper and stronger? We're halfway through this pose. If you need to make any adjustments, this is a really good time for that. Go ahead and turn the head to face the other direction. Maybe widen the knees apart or bring them closer together. Be comfortable here. While most yin yoga poses have an edge, this one may or may not, depending on your anatomy, maybe what you've done activity-wise this week. So just let it be what it is and find rooting. Be solid here. And as you finish adjusting, let the eyes close again. Either listening to the sound of your breath, or inhaling and exhaling some sort of mantra, some sort of meditation. There will be times in this class where there's a little bit of silence, and I know that can be hard, especially when you're at home and there's not the energy of the studio or the music. But let it be good. Let it be good to have a challenge. When we feel challenged in silence, a lot of times that's when we really connect to the inner voice. Only a few more breath cycles in the shape. Try to enjoy it. Notice where you're comfortable, where there's ease. And now begin to wiggle through the fingers, through the toes. Wiggle the hips from right to left. Begin to spread the fingers on the floor and place weight into the hands, preparing to come up on hands and knees. And you may be over your bolster, that's fine. You can also move it to the side, but find some movement through the spine. So either bringing the hips from right to left, the heart forward, the tailbone up, rounding through the back body. You can think of this as opening the front body, closing the front body as you open the back body, or any sort of combination. I invite you to close your eyes and really let this time be your own individual moving mantra, really. I mean, it's your body talking to you, and then you responding to the needs that your body's communicating. Not trying to create heat or excitement in the body, just kind of stirring up what already is there energetically. As we stand, our feet are usually the roots. They're what hold us down. Our feet are pretty amazing. The fact that we can stand with the bodies that we have on these little tiny feet, they're pretty cool. Lots lots of muscles, lots of learning has to happen, as we all know if you've had children or been around them as they learn to walk. So the next pose we're going to do is just going to stretch out through the toes. So what you're going to do is find a kneeling position. If this is uncomfortable for you, again, being creative with props, you can use a block, bring it between the legs and sit. Sort of a supported hero's pose. You can do this with a bolster or pillow or blanket. But what we're going to do is we're going to tuck the toes and then begin to sit back. And notice the sensation you have both in the bottoms of the feet and the tops of the toes. And then you can lean more weight back, maybe remove your prop. You can bring the knees closer together or further together. Notice and look for any sort of stress or pain, really anything going on the inside and the outsides of the knees. We want to avoid that, okay? So you might need to give a little more space, and that's okay. You can also pad under the knees. We won't be here for too long. We're just trying to open up the roots. So sit tall, roll the shoulders up, down, and back. Pull the belly in, broaden the collarbones, and lift through the crown. Palms can be down for grounding, or they can be up for receiving. If you were in my classes last week, we did our Pushpaputa Mudra, that hand of flowers. You can do that as well. A sign of giving and receiving. And what a great time for us to be givers and receivers. I think we've all seen in the news lately that there's a lot of greed, there's a lot of worry. But if we're all giving and we're all receiving equally, it all balances out. We can all feel okay. You may be feeling a little bit of intensity in the feet by now. That's okay. We're almost done. Focus on the breath. If you're feeling discomfort in the feet, in the knees or the hips, look for a place in the body that you feel total softness, total comfort. Can you feel warmth and light there? Begin to send those sensations down to the feet. Softening. Deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Good. Hands to the floor or prop. Toes might feel crazy. That's okay. Go ahead and tuck them. Sit back again. Now, we're going to stretch the tops here. So hands to the floor. You might have to use a little bit of core here. That's a little bit of metal element in our yin practice. You're just going to push into the floor, keeping the toes tucked. There, now you can see. Keeping the toes tucked. You're going to lift up the knees. Still getting a good stretch in the top of the feet now through the ankle. Good. Lower down. Let's find our butterfly pose together. If you have some low back stuff, if when you sit on the floor, your back really begins to speak to you, I'm going to encourage you to elevate the hips. So sit on a blanket or a pillow. I feel pretty good the way I am. I'm used to sitting on the floor, so that's what I'll be doing. But do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So soles of the feet together, knees apart. And I want you to look for that first edge. So if just where you naturally land gives you some sort of sensation, either on the insides of the hips, maybe even the outsides, stay where you are. If you don't feel anything, you can place your hands behind you, lift up the pelvis, bring it closer to the heels, okay? Noticing if that's where you want to feel sensation more. And then bring your support, your props, in front of you. So I'm going to turn this way so you can see how I use props. So how I'm going to use my props. So I'm going to bring a bolster maybe just on top of my feet. And if you'd like to incorporate a metal element to your yin practice, really lengthen up, lift the heart, pull in the belly. You might notice your knees come up a bit. That's okay. You can hold on to the shins, lift up through the heart and then push the heart down, kind of like we're doing a half forward fold. And then keep that middle element and place hands on a bolster or a pillow, kind of like a Sphinx pose. If instead you really need grounding, you really need a softness, you can find an earthly element here. And what that is just melting, rounding forward into the shape. You can imagine there's even a beach ball in front of you, and you're just melting forward. Let the head hang heavy. You can round the back of the neck. Even soften the belly. Don't worry about pulling it in. And just trust in the shape that everything that should be happening in your body is happening. Again, if you feel comfortable, let your eyes close. Or you can keep them open. Just let the vision blur a bit. Unfocus the lens. Notice what kind of thoughts are present. Perhaps it's hard to focus. Maybe this doesn't feel like a studio class, and that's okay. Let that be your work for today. Pushing through that boundary. Letting this be a true practice for you. You're here. You're tuned in. You're doing the practice. It's pretty great. Okay, we are halfway through the pose. Time for any adjustments. And that could be going deeper into the shape. Maybe you want to find more of a diamond shape. Bring the heels further away from you. Reset a bit. Adjust the props. And then again, just begin to melt forward. Notice where you feel sensation. I'm going to encourage you to not use force to press the knees down. In this shape, gravity and body position can do enough opening. We really want to observe the first edge of yin, the first edge of the body, not go too far. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in, I am safe. Breathing out, I am safe. Breathing in, I am home. Breathing out, I am home. Breathing in, I have enough. Breathing out, I have enough. Breathing in, my needs are met. Breathing out, my needs are met. And then noticing what other kinds of affirmations begin to flow from you. What comforts you in this time, current events. What do you need to hear to feel safe, secure, and at ease? Deep breath in and a deep breath out. Rising all the way up. Bringing your prop, if you had one, to the side. Letting your legs go long. Placing your hands behind you for support. And then just swaying or windshield wipering the knees from side to side. Noticing if you need to stay in one area, if there's any stickiness, that's normal. A lot of times when we hold a pose and block off a meridian line, we need to really open it up after to find some counter relief. Let that happen. Our next pose is going to be a supported bridge pose. So this is especially helpful if you have a prop of some kind. It can be anything. If you don't have one, I'm going to give you an alternative pose. So I'm going to use a block. In fact, it's not too late. If you don't have a block, go grab something from the pantry. A box of crackers, a box of, pasta, anything that's about the shape, about the size. You can also use a shoe. You can use a thick wallet. Lots of options here. So what you're going to do is lay back. I think you all pretty much know how to find supported bridge, but we're going to get into it together anyways. So let the feet be flat on the floor. You can wiggle the toes again. Root down through the feet. The theme is rooting, so let's root down. And you're going to grab your prop. You're going to lift up the pelvis just enough to find your sacrum. Ladies, that's where the little logo is usually on the back of your leggings. Guys, I think you know what a sacrum is, just that flat spot above the tailbone. And you can start on the low level. You can work up to the highest level. Just kind of notice what you need. I certainly do not need the highest level today. I'm going to stick with the low level myself. If you do not have a prop of any sort, what I'm going to offer you instead is to press the sacrum down, and instead of finding a lift, we're going to find a tuck. So you can just hug the knees into the chest. You can place hands on knees if you need some extra space for flesh or anatomy. You can place hands to shins. Otherwise, we're looking for a really gentle inversion here, okay? So just begin to settle. And notice what the legs would like to do. You can keep them as they are, aligned with the hips. You can bring the feet wide and the knees together. Or you can stretch the legs long, making a nice rainbow shape, a nice arch with the entire body. What that's going to do is stretch a little bit more through the front of the pelvis. So go ahead and Goldilocks it. Find what you need most. And then just enjoy the shape that you're in. Allow the eyes to close. Allow the breath to be the boss here. Feeling the moving of the body initiated by the movement of the breath. Observing as the body breathes itself. If you're having a hard time staying still, that's okay. I'm going to give you two options. You can invite in a water element to your practice, flowing through the ankles and the wrists, maybe lightly through the knees, even the face. You can move through the face, the neck. Sometimes a little bit of movement can really help soothe the body. It's good for our nervous system. That's why tapping is a thing. Gotta stimulate. So if this is what you need today, go ahead and give yourself that. And at this time, we are halfway through the pose, so you have an option. Waterfall. You can lift the legs up. This is if you are supported, if you have a prop beneath the sacrum. And you can sort of find there's going to be a place where if your legs are too far forward, you feel a lot of ab engagement. If you bring it too far back, you're going to feel your sit bones really begin to lift away from your prop. So find that balance point where everything is pretty stacked. Knees can be bent. Knees can be pretty straight. I'm Goldilocks, I'll be in between. Hands can be wherever you'd like. Belly to connect to the breath. Floor to root down. Find ease and security. Now, if you're all the way down and you're hugging the knees in, what I'm going to have you do is place the hands behind the hamstrings and then just lift the heels up. Same thing, okay? Feel free to turn your head from left to right if you need it. But when you feel ready, give yourself the gift of stillness. And then just notice the activity of the mind. Acknowledging any distractions, whether they be just purely mental, or maybe you do have lots of noise in your house. There's a lot going on. That's okay. Just like an eye rest or yoga nidra, all is welcome. Any thought, any feeling. Let it come and go without judgment. Letting my voice be your voice here. I have enough. I am safe. I am home. Everything will be okay. Now beginning to come out of the shape. Bringing knees down. If you're off your block, if you were just on the floor, again, hugging knees to chest. If you were in that supported bridge pose, landing the feet, pressing down into the feet to lift up the pelvis. And then everyone meeting with knees hugging the chest. Rocking side to side. Stirring the knees around. Can you shift your awareness, letting it first be in the hips? Noticing if there's any sticky points. Smoothing them out. And now bring your awareness to the arms. How much effort are they using here? Is it the muscles of the belly and the hips moving? Or is it the arms moving the legs? Feel sensation. And then finally bring sensation to the low back. Begin to trace the outline, the edge of your sacrum onto the floor, like a nice massage, going in one direction and then the other. All together, we're going to find a happy baby. And you might actually be glad to be doing this at home, since some people get a little uncomfortable doing this in the studio. So what we're going to do, soles of the feet up towards the sky, bent knees, and you're just going to grab whatever you can reach, whether that's the ankles, the sides of the feet, peace fingers to big toes, and you're going to let the soles of the feet remain shining up towards the sky as you root the tailbone down. And then maybe find some movement to start. You can extend one leg, then the other if you'd like to get into the hamstrings. Maybe you rock and sway. And then eventually, again, pressing the tailbone down, I'd like you to find stillness as you're able to. Recognizing that this is a vulnerable pose. And perhaps you felt pretty vulnerable lately in life with everything going on. Notice the similarities. But like in life, where we have those vulnerable open places, we also have our rooting. So feel the back of your low back rooting down into the floor. Feel the connection of your hands to your feet, hands to your roots of your body. You are strong and able. You have all that you need. Everything will be okay. few more breaths here. If you'd prefer to bring the feet together and then hold yourself at the ankles, you're certainly welcome to do that now. If that happy baby was a little much, you can even, a little early, let the feet come down and then just sway the knees from side to side. Our next pose will be a seated posture, so begin thinking about a really good way for you to transition from being supine on our backs to being seated on the floor. Whether that's rolling into a side laying position for a moment or rocking and rolling up, however you'd like to get there, go ahead and come all the way up. We're going to find our caterpillar pose. So it's a seated forward fold. Again, option to lift the hips up, to bend the knees. Definitely find some support, whether that's a blanket, pillows, couch cushion, whatever you have. I'm going to use my bolster. So with the legs extended long, I'd like you first to press your hands to the floor. Just lifting up through the heart space, noticing if there was any closure in the front of the body. You can even place the hands behind the hips, lean back into them, and then push up through the chest. And then when you feel ready, stack the spine. Go ahead and breathe in and reach up high. And on the exhale, you're going to fold forward, finding your caterpillar pose. Not having any attachment to where you can reach, where you can grab, but really noticing the sensation. Not just the backs of the legs. I want you to be aware of the low back, of the glutes, everything behind the body. In fact, if you're really rounding forward, really go for it, really commit. Go ahead and tuck the chin. Let the crown of the head come down towards the thighs even. Get a full posterior chain stretch. Notice the more that you tuck your chin, maybe you feel more in your glutes, your low back. That's your fascia connecting everything. Perhaps if you can reach the soles of your feet, you begin to press into the center of your feet, massaging them a little bit. Notice what that does for the hamstrings. If it softens them, helps them release a little. Again, just breathing in and breathing out. The great thing is, whether I tell you to or not, your body's going to breathe, so we don't have to worry about that. You can play your edge a bit. I'd still like you to respect your edge. So when you first feel sensation, go ahead and stop there. We don't want to go too deep. Overstretching the hamstrings and putting too much stress on the hamstring attachments is a real thing. If you are recovering from that, you might need to be a little more active here. Flex through the feet, pull back through the heels a little bit, and then push down through the floor. And that's going to give you some activation in the actual muscles. That's okay. That is more of a wood and a metal element for our yin practice. So again, just noticing what you feel, maybe rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. Wanting it to be around a 3, nothing too intense. Movement if you need movement. We've got a couple more minutes here, so if you feel like maybe you went a little too far, if you're already kind of antsy to get out of the pose, walk your hands to the shins and lift the heart a bit. Find some relief. And focus on the breath. walk the hands back a little more until the spine is stacked. And now we're going to do a pose that's not really a yin pose, but counter poses are very important in yin, as you guys know. So place the hands behind the hips, fingers pointing towards the toes. And we're just going to push into the hands, lift the pelvis up. You can squeeze through the glutes, lift the pelvis a little higher. You can even sway side to side, like wind is moving you through a tree. Feel effort here. Effort is okay. And then soften down. Good. Bounce through the knees a bit. Our next pose to help us root down is going to be Malasana, which we don't often do in my yin classes. So I would definitely encourage prop usage. If you don't need a prop, if your Malasana feels pretty good, you can go ahead and do it just hanging out. That's fine. I'm going to use blocks to demonstrate. Again, you can also use a rolled up blanket or pillow. So stacking some blocks. You can stand all the way up if you like, or if lowering down gives you some problems in the legs or knees, I would just start low. And you're going to sit down, and then you're going to bring the feet wide. Okay, heels in, toes out, lift up. If it's comfortable for you, if you can keep a nice straight spine, bring the elbows to the insides of the knees. Bring the palms together, and then find some counter pressure from elbows to knees, knees to elbows. Lift through the heart. Perhaps you're completely supported like this and you think, oh, I don't feel an edge and I'd really like one. That's when we begin removing some props, maybe coming a little bit lower. Maybe coming all the way down, away from our props, noticing how we feel. Again, option to sway, to move. Notice inside or outside the knee if you feel any tension or strain. That's what we want to pay attention to. Lifting up through the heart. Option to stay here. This is a nice metal and wood element. Or if you'd like that earth element, round forward. Honoring the needs of your body. Today my body needs a little more of this. Again, be aware of everything coming and going in the mind. Kind of thoughts you have, if there's busyness, judgment. And then welcome it, whatever it is. Even if it's negative, you can welcome it. Let it be a teacher. You can learn something from every thought we have. Sometimes those thoughts, the negative thoughts, are really just our way of accepting fear and trying to change it. So don't change it. Instead, find grounding, find a rooting sensation here, not just in the body, but in the mind. Repeating to yourself, I am home. I am safe. I am provided for. Everything will be okay. Good. We've got one final effort type pose before we begin to ground back down before our Shavasana. What we're going to do, again, this is a pose we don't often do for my class, but we're going to find dangle pose. So bring your hands to the floor, bring your hips to the sky, and it might feel really nice to bring the hips from right to left or draw circles. You can bring the heels and the feet under the hips if you like, or keep them wide. You can pedal out through the knees. Again, whatever you're doing, let it feel really good. This is counter movement, counter pose. As you're ready to find your dangle, what you're going to do, it's kind of a funny sentence, but as you find your dangle, You're just going to either let the hands hang to the floor or a prop. You can keep the knees bent if you'd like. You can keep the spine straight, or you can round. You can cross at the arms. You can let the head hang. You can find movement here. And we're not just trying to stretch the hamstrings, so don't lock out the legs. Let there be a bend. You can even try and bring the belly towards the thighs. We're looking for an opening in the back of the body here. Finding some movement if you need movement. Inviting in a water-like element. So you can imagine that as your body sways, as your hair hangs, even you guys, you have some hair, let it hang. Imagine that you're like seaweed in water. There's still rhythmic movement. It's not just jerking around and bouncing. There's a flow to it. The body knows that. Then begin to link that movement with your breath. And now it's time to begin to ground down. So bring the hands and the knees down. To give a little bit of stretch to the hip flexors, go ahead and come to your hands and knees. And then begin to bring the pelvis forward and lift through the heart. You can come back to a child's pose. Come forward, pelvis down, heart up. Or you can just move through your cat-cows, more traditional. Breathing, moving. Taking whatever route is best for you. And now begin to think about how you can be the most comfortable version of yourself physically. What kind of things can you gather from the room around you? Pillows, blankets, if you have weighted blankets. If you really like the rice bags that we use at the studio, heck, go grab a bag of rice. Put it in a pillowcase. You can lay it over your lap. Begin to get comfortable. Allow yourself the time and the space to lay down. In class, I've been sharing, it's a year of living your yoga. And I thought today's was pretty special, actually. It really matched up, I felt. So I wanted to share it with you as you kind of get comfortable and get situated into your Shavasana. And what March 17th says is, yoga is the conscious choice of the difficult. And how difficult is it to have a home practice, you guys? It's hard. It's hard to make the space, to make the time. For us yoga teachers who are used to being in a studio, this is hard. You know, it's jumping out of our comfort zone. But we're all doing this so we can keep our community. You know, we teachers recognize that you come to the studio for community. You know, you could stretch at home. But we've found a real love for each other, a real connection. And it's such a gift. And doing this, while it's temporary, I think it's a way for all of us to really grow. You know, it's forcing the studio goers to really begin to cultivate a home practice. And it's forcing us teachers to grow in ways that we never knew we would have to. So that's what yoga is. It's the conscious choice of doing the difficult things sometimes. So now that you are hopefully comfortable, you have the option to turn off the audio and just give yourself about 10 minutes of rest. Technically, I guess you would have about 9 minutes. What I'm going to do instead, if you'd like to keep your audio on, I'm going to play my harmonium, okay? It is a sound that may not be for everyone. So as you begin to hear it, if you think, wow, this is not the sound for me to relax to, please feel free to mute me, to turn off the audio, to leave the meeting. My feelings won't be hurt. But if it's a sound that you enjoy and a sound that really kind of lulls you into a state of peace, I invite you to listen to that, okay? So begin by, again, getting very comfortable, by settling into the voice that's within, noticing what's present, what's not. Let the body breathe itself. Let there be a real softness. The body is heavy. The body is supported. The body is safe. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. I'd like to thank you guys so much for joining this yin practice with me.